Steve, we've just been around looking at the Colney setup as it is now. What do you feel walking around this place as it is now compared to the one when you first came in?
Oh, it's chalk and cheese. Well, as you've seen, I think as we get excited as we're going towards the grass, and all the coaches, staff you've been out with, obviously Dave and Gilly. We're just in a different place. We're able to provide a level of facility really that's good enough to be in a Cat 1 club and suitable for a club of this size. So the pitches now, although they've only been open sort of 6 weeks, it's even with the rain that we've had in the last 24 hours, we're not calling games off. We're able to use them, so that's a big difference to us.
And there is a lot of work still going on. Obviously, the actual building itself is probably still 6-8 months away from being done. There's loads of work still to go on. We've got a stand that's going in just behind you. So, has that been quite awkward working around that sort of change?
It's amazing what you get used to. I think you just get on with it, because I think the long term. We've not been on the grass since February, so even after our under-23s have trained on AstroTurf for the last 6 months, all pre-season, we were unable to do that. So you kind of get used to it, and I think people see the bigger picture, and certainly with the academy staff who've been involved in the designing of the facility, there's obviously a genuine excitement about what's coming next, and they're quite able to take whatever we've got far less diggers on here now than we did have 3 or 4 months ago, so I think there's a real excitement now. We've had footings going in for the gym, and the sides, and is starting on the main academy building, so I think it's just a genuine excitement about I think we're due for an April-May finish for a large part of it, which is for us just around the corner really, so it's an exciting time.
And in terms of what Colney does look like now, it's really impressive. It's brand new. It's wonderful. It looks like a really good use of the space too. But you're competing in quite a difficult area in terms of Cat 1 academies. And how hard has it been to sort of work out what is the best fit for Norwich City, given that the same category features clubs like Manchester City, who basically have a limitless budget?
Well, I think we built this for us. So we've utilised every bit of space that we've got. But I think the second thing is, or the most important thing is, it's purpose built. It's not lavish. It's going to be, it's not going to have things it doesn't need. Some of the spaces are going to be dual purpose. So we've got a classroom that's going to be a media centre that's also going to be for Daniel as well. It's going to be first team orientated with some of the stuff. So we've built it with a practical sense in mind. We're fortunate enough to visit quite a few places. We went over to Germany obviously and see some of what they've done with their stuff. So. And I think it's just a practical element to it all. It's going to be nice, it's going to be new, but very practical.
And in terms of the football with the academy as well, it's been quite the start to the season really, hasn't it? I mean, we obviously had the success of Jamal last season, and we can now call Max Aarons in amongst that too, and Todd Cantwell, both playing regularly at the moment. Max has had his second contract in 4 months, which is fairly ridiculous. So, I mean, has that caught you out in terms of that progress and that conveyor belt into the first team?
Well, when I came in, I thought we had good players, and I think there was certain things a culture you're trying to get into place, and I think it was a culture sort of come from Delia. To be fair, my very first meeting with her in the first week was about, listen, we need to get young players in the team. I feel that we can do it. We owe it to Norfolk. We owe it to the area. Second thing is creating opportunity, and it's amazing you create opportunity. What all people do. So I think not everyone has found it easy, because your head's above the parapet a little bit. There's been a change in culture, a change in I suppose, going away from the team ethos at the academy, going towards individual players, of which you're now starting to see some of the fruits of that. So it's not been easy for Max. It's certainly not been easy for Todd. We sent him to Holland, go and grow up. And probably with a little bit of resistance. It's probably something that this club's probably not done before in terms of sending too many lads out on loan. But it's something that we're determined to continue. It's about a future in the game. So it might not be for us, but I do believe that we have a responsibility to any young player that if it's not for us, it's for someone else, and they've got a league career in them. So I've got to say, so far, they've either gone out and about and played, or they've come and played for us. And Todd's I think the 3 lads are probably a shining example of different ways of how to do it. Some of them straight in, whereas Todd's been had to go for a different route, but they're all playing in the same. The end result's the same, you know.
Which has been very good recently, and you know what football's like. People will be like, okay, well that's good. We've got those three now. What's next? And how big a pressure is there for you to keep that run of players and new talent coming through, and I guess the level of demand on how much of that you can produce?
Oh yeah, no, it's. I think there's. I suppose the lads. I'm maybe I'm a little bit more used to it because I've worked with Stuart before, and you know we've sort of been dedicated to trying to produce young players. I think maybe culturally a little bit different. We've just had a meeting this morning about the next ones, you know, and the pressures on the coaches and the medical staff and the sports scientists to, you know, it's about performance. And if the lads aren't doing what they should be, then there's a bit more pressure put on the staff to make sure that the next ones are there. We've got good players, but I'm a big believer in that however the players are, how good they are, you need to push all their buttons to make sure, and you've got to be prepared sometimes for it to be a bit uncomfortable for them. And we've done that with the older lads. We've got a reasonable good group just below that group as well, which we're very optimistic over. And I think we'll see more debuts. You know, I'm just mindful of it's such a young team anyway. You know, you're going to end up with an under-19 team soon. So, and our job's not for Daniel, to be fair. Ours, so, you know, we just got to be mindful of. Listen, the first team are here to win. You know, and I'm not pushy with Daniel. We speak, we have a chat. You know, our job's just to give him another option. But certainly not. I don't walk in going, I think he should play in the first team and he should play in the first team. That's really for Stuart. We have to create opportunity. And if it's not with, you know, if we've got a 19-year-old right back now or a 17-year-old, he might have to go away from here to get better first team exposure. You know, because Max is doing so well. So the younger the first team gets, inevitably the harder it gets. You know.
I was going to ask that because the transition from the academy up to the first team, is that an important thing? Does there have to be things like systems and the way people play that marries through from the academy to the first team, or is it different to that really?
I think people get hung up on systems. We have a certain type of player that would play right back for us, a centre back, or but there's more than one type. And I think of all those, what we try and do is create. We think we've got a player profile that we think the manager would pick from. So as simple as that really. And you know, there's a physical element to it, there's a tactical element to it. And what we try and do is sometimes when they come to us, they might be in a certain position from local football or from another club, and we might end up being somewhere different to fit where we are. But it's all about the boys inevitably playing senior football somewhere, you know.
Just a couple more. I mean, in terms of Daniel, how much credit does he deserve for the way that he's managed the players into the first team? Because I think we've seen it a lot at this club as well, that players, you know, they look ready, but maybe they're in and out, or when they get there, they're not quite ready. But it does seem to have been quite seamless with how Jamal and Max and Todd have come in.
I think huge credit, because to be fair, there's probably players amongst the lads that, not just the lads who are in the first team now, but others who we don't see. We're kind of unconvinced on him, but Daniel's not. So it's like, all right, the manager likes him, so that helps. And the other thing is, the biggest thing about Daniel is, and we spoke about it, is the fact that he's give the academy credit for those players, whereas it doesn't always the case. You know, it was actually nice that he come out and said good things about us, rather than going, yeah, I've been watching this lad for 6 months, and it was really aimed at the academy. So no, he takes huge credit. The other thing that he doesn't mind upsetting senior players, and I've got to say that's quite refreshing. You know, it's right. You know, but I think it's part of his role. You know, I kind of get. You know, that's what he was brought here to do. Is one, make the first team successful, but he does produce or help to produce young players. So I think we're in a very fortunate position at the moment. And sometimes you walk into a place where it's getting itself geared towards being the model that they want to do going forward, and it's certainly the board and Delia's vision anyway.
And just one from slight left field maybe at the end, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the way clubs loan their players, and in terms of FIFA and UEFA clamping down on it in a way and maybe restricting it. Is that something that's in the back of your mind about how things operate here in terms of player opportunities, or and how you utilise the loan system? There's
probably two angles at that. I think it's probably aimed at some of the super clubs who have probably got an 80 or 90 player staff. So I think that's slightly different. You know, I think their business model is slightly different to our business model. We send them out on loan when we feel that, I don't think anyone really plays an under-23 team. I think, if you've got an under-21 team playing on an under-20 team, you don't really. Ours is an under-19 team, and I think you naturally, Gilly like me saying it, but they get to an end where they finish with Gilly. It's like, right, okay, we're off, and they need to get senior football. So the loan system, ideally you want to go straight through into your first team, but if that doesn't happen, you do need to get them some sort of exposure towards senior football, and you never know about the kids until you play in front of people. You just never know. So you can, as much as you think you know them, the moment someone shouts at you and has a go at you, then you know the type of player you're going to be. So I don't think that's necessarily aimed at us. We don't carry big numbers. It's not something that me and Stuart have ever dealt with. We're not big on having players here to make teams up. They're here for a future. So if we've got to suffer a little bit, then we're quite prepared to do that.
Brilliant. Well, last one. I mean, it is just a little more than a year, isn't it, since I think you came in here, and with the way the club is now and what you've got planned, you must be really happy with how it's going and what your plans are.
Yeah, it's probably one of them jobs really. It didn't quite. We throw our ideas around a lot, me and Stu, and we've always done that. To be fair, every idea we've had seems to have come off. So even the building, it was a thought after a meeting my first week. I went, oh, how much is that going to cost? And to be fair, I think it was about £750,000, £1 million. That didn't quite hit the mark. We tried to raise the money for the pitches through the cup runs, and the club were like, oh no, we'll try and do this. And then obviously with Tom Smith with the bond, and then obviously this didn't even go out to the public, did it? It was 6 days, which was, it's almost been like a dream 12 months really. And then obviously since the start of this season, with the lads getting in the team, it's been perfect really. And the important thing for us is it can't stop. It's a really good start for us, but we will have failed the kids if they don't end up having the careers that they should have. And as I say, there's quite a lot of pressure from Stuart mainly, to make sure that we've got good lads here. Is that, are they getting the right work? Are they getting, they have to have the careers that their talents demand really. So that we're under a little bit of pressure, to be fair.